To the snowstorm. I'm Nicholas Snow, and we're going to be offering an update on the recent court proceedings in the trial against alleged serial rapist Hakan Isik. You may have heard about this case. This might be the first time you're hearing about it. But my guest coming up in just a few minutes, Raymond LaFleur, has gone to two of the recent court proceedings. This is the snowstorm. So, before I get into the updates about this very important and hot topic, I just wanted to let all of you know who've been tuning in every single night since January 1st. That means that this is my 38th night in a row of doing a show. I'm going to pull back on the nightly broadcast. I'm going to be broadcasting less frequently because I need to spend more time booking the sort of guest I want to be on the show. So I have too many shows and not enough guests. I have the capability of getting all the sorts of guests that I want on my show, that I want to focus on saving democracy, leading into the November presidential election. So I'm going to be reaching out to all the patrons of my show to find out what I do that they value the most, but I'm also going to be reaching out to the high-powered guests that I know that I can get to come here and speak with you. In the wings, as I mentioned, I have Raymond LaFleur, who's going to be returning to the show in just a minute, and we're going to be updating you on this horrific circumstance in which gay men were targeted on dating apps here in the greater Palm Springs area. PromoHomo.TV is all about empowering you, our communities, and our world. Shouting out to my media partners. Pink Media, amplifying PromoHomo.TV across the Twitterverse with their hashtag I Love Gay campaign. GayDesertGuide.lgbt. And KGay 1065 Palm Springs, available worldwide. Ask your smart speaker to play KGAY. It's as simple as this. We will save our democracy in 2024, or we will watch the United States implode. I'm Nicholas Snow, and this crisis we face is why I have launched The Snowstorm, a nightly hot topics panel discussion show in which I will curate your social media comments into the show, and we will connect the conversation to action we can take to save America.
Watch The Snowstorm nightly at 6 p.m. Pacific at PromoHomo.TV.
If you're watching live, just a reminder, if you comment in social media, I can curate your comments into the show, unless you're watching on Instagram Live, and then I can read your comments. And over on my Instagram page, I see that my friend Angela has tuned in, and Ray has tuned in. Ray, RAYNALIV, great on Instagram. I love watching his feed. Really important stuff. I also want you to know that you can support this show for as little as $3 a month. I'm going to leave that information up while I update you on the focus of tonight's episode. So, the court proceedings against accused serial rapist Hakan Isik are advancing, and Raymond LaFleur, moderator of the Gay Men of Palm Springs, California Facebook group that was instrumental in connecting the dots of the case, is returning to the snowstorm tonight to update us on two of the legal proceedings that he attended. Plus, he and I are going to discuss some cryptic emails that were sent to me and others in a seeming attempt to create an alternative narrative to the facts of this case. Now, for those of you who are unaware of the facts of this case, on June 15th, 2023, Jake Ingrassia, actually June 2nd, 2023, for KESQ Jake Ingrassia reported, quote, Hakan Isik of Desert Hot Springs was charged with violently attacking 5 individuals over the past year, and additional victims have now come forward to share their harrowing experiences. And a couple weeks later, June 15th, Ingrassia's reporting continued on KESQ. Quote, Isik is accused of being a serial rapist involved in multiple violent and sexual assaults. He faces 9 felony and misdemeanor charges spanning 5 victims, including the sexual assault of a Palm Springs man who said he met Isik on a dating app. If convicted, Isik faces life in prison. And on that date, the alleged rapist was held on $1 million bail. So, with that background information, I'm going to welcome back to the show Raymond LaFleur. Hi, Raymond.
Hey, Nicholas. Nice to be with you again.
Nice to have you here. I wish it was under different circumstances. So, for people that do not know, describe why the Gay Men of Palm Springs, California Facebook page helped connect the dots in this case.
Sure. I think last year ago, January, end of January, early February, Rand Snell shared his story on his own Facebook page. And then one of my group members shared his story into the group. It got a lot of attention, a lot of comments, and a lot of feedback privately to both Rand and myself from people who also shared the same type of horrific experience. So from my perspective, I think, my role was to connect these people with law enforcement authorities and try to encourage them to go in and tell their stories, as difficult as that can be, given the circumstances around that, and the guilt and shame and everything else that goes along with these kind of assaults.
So ultimately, the police got more information. They were able to make an arrest. The alleged rapist has been in jail ever since on a $1 million bail.
Since about mid-May, correct?
Since about mid-May of 2023. All right. So about 9 months.
Right.
If my math is correct. So how many of the court proceedings have you been to?
I've been to, I want to say 2. It might have been 3, but 2. It's the most recent ones. As this thing was languishing and they were going through continuances and delays and whatnot, I wasn't there. I started going week before last, I would say, as there's been a flurry of hearings, and it seemed like an actual preliminary hearing was pending. So I started attending.
Okay, so I'm aware of three court instances that you attended, the 2 most recent, and then you had attended at least one the last time you were on my show talking about this.
Right. I was at the preliminary hearing on Friday, did not go to the bail hearing today.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
So tell me what happened and our viewers, what happened at the preliminary hearing?
Sure. So for viewers who don't really, I think a lot of people understand, but many don't, what a preliminary hearing really is all about. The main purpose is to lay out all the evidence, and a judge determines whether or not the evidence is strong enough to proceed to trial and be held to account and proceed to trial. So that hearing was held Friday, started late morning, and it lasted quite a while, lasted till around 5 p.m. So there was
that would have been February 2nd.
Correct. There was a lot of material to go through. I believe there was one principal witness, and that was the detective from the Palm Springs Police Department who took most of these statements, victim statements and reports. And he presented all those and went through them very methodically. And that consumed almost the entire hearing.
And it must have been horrifying to listen to.
I'm sure it was. It was a closed hearing, so witnesses and potential witnesses weren't allowed to be there. The district attorney last week identified me as a potential witness, so he suggested that I be excused. He informed, I think, the defense attorney that I was identified as a potential witness, and the defense attorney asked that I be excused, and I was.
From the room?
Correct.
Oh, so you were ejected, which is it's
I was 86.
Wow, I was unaware of that. So, since you are a potential witness, then are the people then inside the room prohibited from telling you what happened next?
I don't think so. There are other people, victims advocates involved, and of course attorneys and whatnot. There's more than one attorney. One or two of the victims have their own attorney. So no, I think we're just excused from that hearing. Another person was excused, was at the bail hearing today, and there was no problem.
Okay. So you weren't at the bail hearing today. Do you have any reports secondhand of what occurred there today?
Sure. At the preliminary hearing, to wrap that up, oftentimes, charges can be sometimes added. Sometimes the judge doesn't believe there's enough evidence to support specific charges. But in this case, all the charges went forward. The judge ruling that there was enough evidence to support all of them. And in addition, 4 more charges were added
involving additional people?
Relating to 2 additional victims. So the victims involved in the case has gone from 5 to 7. Don't know
of
that. Well, that's what they said in court. So it's not. I don't think that's at issue. And then the remarkable thing is, out of that long laundry list of charges across all 7 individuals, not a single one of them were dismissed. So it went forward. The judge approved it to go forward to trial.
And today was a bail hearing?
Today, after a preliminary hearing, the defendant's entitled to a bail hearing that kind of revisits the original bail. His original bail had been set at $1 million, which is extraordinary. And so there was a lot of concern, I think, that would be revised downward perhaps. But in the end, it was not. It was held at $1 million. I think the defense made a fairly commendable case to support a much lower bail. I understand that he asked for $50,000 bail with many, many conditions. For example, no cell phone, no access to social media, no contact with victims or witnesses, drug testing once a week, several of those kinds of things. He laid out a plan for accommodation, housing, his passport, et cetera, et cetera. But all things considered, I think the judge might have made a comment that who is going to manage all of these things, believing that it's not realistic or plausible. And given the number of victims involved, he decided that there was no reason to change the bail amount. So the bail stands. So both the preliminary hearing and the bail hearing today, I would consider, from my own point of view, a big success, a big relief to all the victims involved, and for the community in general. I think through all of this, our focus has been on justice for the victims and justice for the community. we all, the gay community, we want to believe many of us moved here from other parts of the country believing it's a safe place to live, and we want to make sure it stays that way, that it's a safe place to live. A compassionate community that wants justice for the victims. And at the same time, understanding that this defendant's entitled to, his own defense and right of an attorney and making his case in court, and ultimately having a jury decide one way or the other what the result should be.
I'm listening to you, but I also wanted to find the information about the event that's coming up in Palm Springs about safety when it comes to hooking up on apps. So I'm going to look for that in the break because I want to be able to tell people
Yeah,
about it.
it's the DAP Raw Talk.
Yeah, it's their raw
He
talk. I want to.
held at 111 bar on the 22nd, I believe, February 22nd.
And was it at 5 p.m.?
I don't remember the
Well,
specific time.
I'll
Sounds
look
about
for that on the break. But the reason
sure.
I wanted to ask, I know that in the news they've been reporting dating apps, but has it come out in court? Like, was it specifically Grindr? Was it Scruff? Was it both? Do we know? Was there a primary dating app that was used?
I don't think that. Well, it might have come out in the investigator's testimony, but my recollection in talking to several of the victims at the onset, it was across several apps. There wasn't one in particular that comes to mind.
Okay.
Several of them were mentioned.
So I want to take a break, but before I take the break, I want to just remind my viewers that the primary election in California is coming up on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. I got my ballot today and I voted today, and
Wow.
I dropped off my ballot at the Palm Springs City Hall, which is one of the official drop off locations. So I told you that to show you this. This particular shirt is the crux of the Hopeful Sexual campaign, and it is designed to inspire authentic human connection while simultaneously combating sexuality-based shame and stigma. And the really cool thing is, if you go to hopefulsexual.com, it takes you to an Amazon store where this shirt is available in all sorts of styles, sizes, and colors. And I use the revenue to fund PromoHomo.TV. So check it out. I think almost everyone is a hopeful sexual, don't you? So I made use of my break and I found this for you.
That's it.
DAP Health presents Raw Talk, Boundaries and Bliss, How to Safely Navigate Online Hookups, featuring Brody Kamen with special guest Commander Rick Sanchez from the Cathedral City Police Department. It is at the 111 Bar in Cathedral City, Thursday, February 22nd from 7 to 9 p.m., and So that one of the things they're talking about is how to safely navigate online hookups, and we want
Very
our
important.
audience to know about
I
that.
plan on promoting it strongly within my group because I think it's that important that people attend and listen, even if they think they already know how to handle themselves on the apps.
So, is there anything else that you want to say about what you've observed factually before we get into the next thing I want to talk about, which are these cryptic emails that many of us in the media
Yeah.
received? Is
No, I
there
think
anything else
that was pretty much a summary of the events of the last two hearings.
do you happen to know what happens next in the court proceedings?
Um, there's a formal hearing, I think, sometime next week. Um, it's an arraignment where he has an opportunity to plead once again on each and every charge. He has the opportunity to ask and make his case that certain charges should be dismissed. And I think that that's the last major event before trial scheduled.
Okay, well, then I want to move into this series of cryptic emails I received. And this person, used the word confidential in the subject line. I haven't said his name on my show, but he had some criticisms of you. And the I just want my audience to know that I am not the recipient. Someone in the media who doesn't even cover hard news generally. I'm not the appropriate recipient of information that could be key to this or any case. The police are the appropriate recipients of that information. And especially if someone is going to be anonymous and want me to communicate things on my show that I have no way of personally vetting, I'm not going to do that either. So there were so many different things about the way that this information came to me that made me skeptical, and the person wouldn't take no for an answer. And ultimately, I had to tell him that I didn't appreciate his approach and that I was blocking his email. And before I had a chance to actually block the two different emails he started to use, he told me I sounded like a mega reporter, a mega supporter, a mega supporter. So that was my experience of that, and I forwarded all of those to you. But I guess you've discovered more about this particular individual and what they were doing.
Yeah, I'm glad you chose to share that because I think there's a larger context involved in what happens with you. First, I think what you said is correct. The way I interpreted that email, as well as emails received by other media folk, you weren't the only one to receive this kind of contact or have this kind of exchange. I saw it as an opportunity to spin an alternative narrative to the media, given the history of the media stories that we've seen. They felt like they needed to counteract that, whoever this person is. Pretty confident that the email address is an alias and the person named isn't a real name. That's probably
Well, and there
fair.
were two different email addresses that were used in the conversation with me because I
Right,
blocked one of them and then that showed
right.
up from another one. And
Um,
um,
but the more disturbing thing was the content, without getting into the detail of the content, as you just kind of alluded to, was very sensitive discovery information. Some of it was. Some of it was being intermixed with his own assumptions and to support whatever story he was trying to tell. But it was obvious, given the things that he said in that email, he had access or knowledge of this very sensitive discovery information. And discovery information is, evidence the police have collected, um, reports filed by victims with the police and their interviews, Nobody has access to that. I don't. I've not seen any of it.
So your
Um,
theory is that this was a covert operation by the defense?
I wouldn't go that far. I can't support that. I can say that
It was a covert
at this point
operation by
in
someone.
time,
Well, we know it was covert by the way that it was handled, but
where we
what
are
would
in the course of this trial is, the people that have access to the information are basically the defense attorney, uh, the investigators involved, and the defense. So people can come to their own conclusions as to where this information was coming from and how it was being used. But in any event, one of the attorneys involved with one of the victims pretty much picked it up and ran with it. He was pretty upset and angry. I guess this crosses some significant red lines, and
ethical lines?
yeah, well, ethical and legal lines
All
because
right, so in other words, you can't say the who behind it, but based upon what you have seen objectively in your communication with this attorney, you feel like strongly that there was a leak from the uh, within the court proceeding in some way, shape, or form.
it had to be one of those three sources that I named off: the law enforcement investigators, the district attorney, or the defense. Um,
Okay, it's getting hot up
that's
in here,
that's the only
but
source for that kind of information at this point in time.
right. So a point that I want to make is when this person first contacted me, it was a very simple request to have a sensitive conversation with me. And I responded and said, I'm not the person to receive that information. It should go to the police. If you know of a victim of this alleged rapist, then those victims' identities can be kept private, as is their right, because that's the way the law is structured. So I basically responded indicating the reasons why I was not the appropriate person
Right.
to reach out to. And then, these voluminous emails came in, and it was like, nope, not doing
Yeah.
this.
It must have been kind of stunning.
Um, yeah, it was a bit bizarre. Is there anything else, Raymond, that you would like to say about anything?
No, I think, hand in hand with the emails, one of the victims has received up to 20 email and voicemail threats through anonymous email addresses, anonymous phone numbers. And I think all of that is all one thing. Those emails, the emails you got, somebody has been very aggressive at trying to intimidate witnesses, trying to spin a different narrative, um, point the finger at perhaps others who could be blamed. Um, it was pretty clear.
My friend and supporter Rock May has been watching. I want to acknowledge him. Larry First has a question. Could this information, he says, could this be used in a mistrial? This sort of information, could it result in a mistrial? The fact that this information has been shared in a way that it shouldn't have, is the proceeding itself in jeopardy that you know of?
Um, I'm not a legal expert, so I really don't know. But why? I maybe I don't understand the question. What information?
Um,
Referring to the
Well, I'm
information?
projecting that that's what he's asking because there isn't a mistrial. The trial's still going on, but we were talking about this information, and maybe, Larry, you could clarify your question. Um, while we're waiting for him to perhaps do that, I just want to remind our viewers once again of the opportunity to go to DAP Health's Raw Talk, Boundaries and Bliss, How to Safely Navigate Online Hookups. That's Thursday, February 22nd from 7 to 9 p.m. And that's at the 111 Bar in Cathedral City. And a special guest is Commander Rick Sanchez from the Cathedral City Police Department, and Brody Kamen, who I believe is an adult content creator, will also be there for that. And I shared with you off the air, Raymond, but I want to share it with my viewers that might have tuned in. I'm going to stop with the nightly broadcast for now. I'm going to do broadcasts when I have appropriate guests, and I'm going to be spending a lot of my time and energy into finding the guests who are on the front lines of fighting to save democracy, because it's more important than ever before. So, Larry says, right, after the trial, can they use this information for mistrial? So, my understanding, Larry, is that a mistrial happens during an actual trial, and that a mistrial is not something that is declared after the trial. So I think that if this particular information that Raymond and I have been discussing is going to impact the legal proceedings, it would be the current legal proceedings. That is my...
You're probably right.
That's my informed...
If I understand the question correctly. It's also not clear to what he's referring to, this information.
I believe he's referring to the email and the leaked information. I think that we're
if that's true, then I think you probably are right that it would be addressed in the current upcoming trial.
Okay, Raymond. Well, I appreciate your personal involvement and your advocacy for the victims, and now the fact that you're a potential witness might inhibit your first-person experience, but when you feel like there's an appropriate development, please definitely, come back.
Be happy to.
And if you hear of any Super Bowl parties, Taylor Swift parties.
Taylor Swift parties.
I just want to share this story. So, Raymond has the Gay Men of Palm Springs Facebook group. And I posted a few days ago, actually more than a few. I said, does anyone know of any Taylor Swift parties or Super Bowl parties? Which I meant as a total compliment to Taylor Swift. It's like, yeah, she's why I want to watch the Super Bowl, other than the commercials, the halftime show, and the periodic Bulls shots. But some people thought I was dissing Taylor Swift by that post, and I found myself having to say, this is not an anti-Taylor Swift post. But yeah, if you hear of any Super Bowl parties or Taylor Swift parties, hit me up. Let me know.
Will do. I think it's more than a few.
It would be, yeah, but I haven't been invited to them. You see, at least I'm not begging for dates here. I'm just begging for a party invites. Raymond, I appreciate you and all you do, and thank you.
And thank you for what you're doing.
My pleasure. And everybody at home, thank you for watching. And if you donate $10 a month or more, your name can appear in the closing credits, like the superstars whose names you're about to see.
In a safe place, I got room to breathe. Been a long chase, but at last I'm free. These open woods, I knew I could find peace here. Nothing like the city we're at. They're tired of the running, they're catching up. I got hungry for the stunning high mountain tops. So I made some plans, some dreams to catch, to promised lands, to find my path, see the planet from greater heights. I have found a place out of time and space, far from city lights. blue sky, feel the